Hi, Mars here, good afternoon, and welcome to my video about my electric recumbent tricycle, which is a vehicle that I've been building over the last couple of months in between various other jobs, and it's something that I've just finished, but I've never actually tested it yet. So what I'm going to do in this video is give you a bit of a walkthrough about how I've put it together, and then we're going to go for a test drive. So the base recumbent tricycle is actually made by a company called KMX, and they produce these sort of pedal version tricycles where you have one driving wheel at the back and two steering wheels at the front. This particular one came to me as part of a pile of them actually that were being scrapped from somewhere that used to hire them out, and it was originally pedal powered. But I got it for nothing, and basically it was left out in the rain for quite a while, so a lot of the chain gear went rusty and stuff, and I thought actually I'd like to save it and try and convert it into an electric vehicle. They're pretty simple things really. Obviously this used to have pedals on it, and the pedals work the rear wheel via a chain. It had a number of gears on it, as is typical with these things. Obviously I had no electric elements to it when I got it. And at the front is a very basic steering mechanism. You've got these little wheels are really not much bigger than pram wheels, and the handlebars turn them the way you want to go, and there's a bit of a center return feature to it, which is nice, and handbrakes, and of course a nice big foam seat, which is actually really comfortable. Recumbents are very comfortable bikes to ride. So I've opted for 24 volt electrics. I don't know why I picked 24 volt. Most electric bikes that you see these days are 36 or 48, but I've gone with 24. And it's a DC system, not a three-phase electric like most of them are. On the rear I've got two lead acid batteries. I've opted not for lithium-ion that you'll see on pretty much every other electric vehicle going, though you can use it with lithium-ion. I'll show you in a minute. I actually quite like lead acid. It's quite an old technology now. Well, it's a century old now. But they're good, they're reliable, they don't explode if there's any problem with the charging, they don't burst into flames. They're very, very dependable technology, although they are certainly heavier and have less capacity than their lithium-ion equivalents, but even so, you know, I'm a fan of old lead acid batteries. These are AGM, absorbed glass mat batteries, so they're designed for deep discharge, and there's two of them operating in series, so that gives you the 24 volt. And they connect up here to the electrical system via this Anderson plug there. So that's basically the vehicle's socket there, and that's the battery, so you just plug it in, and that's that. The batteries are mounted to the frame using these aluminium brackets that I made up. It's just basically angle iron, it's aluminium, that I've cut up with an angle grinder and smoothed the edges off. It's bolted to the steel frame of the KMX. Battery sits on top. There's a one of these bungee cords just holding it on. It's pretty solid. There's another one over there, obviously. They're not too heavy, they're good, and there's nothing to stop you bringing a few spare ones if you were planning on a particularly long ride. Let me show you the charger actually. This is actually a mobility scooter charger, because they're normally 24 volt too. It's very simple. It wasn't expensive, it was about £10 on eBay. It's quite powerful though. I think it's about 8 amps or something. So you just plug it in and forget, basically the light comes on, and that just plugs into the battery. I've opted to basically have a system where you have to disconnect the battery to plug it into the charger. You don't plug the charger in as it is, and the reason for that is I don't want to risk driving off with the charger still attached. That is impossible on this bike, because you've got to disconnect it from the electrics to plug it into the charger, if you see what I mean. So yeah, a bit of a safety feature. Propulsion is by this DC motor here. Again, another eBay purchase. It wasn't very expensive, it was about £40 I think, maybe a bit less, and it's rated at 500 watts, 24 volts. It's got little air vents in it to stop it overheating. Well, actually that doesn't really work, because this is the second motor. I did a bit of a test when it's partway through build with a different motor. I actually burnt it out because I was working it far too hard. I'll come on to that in a bit. So this is a replacement one. They're not particularly expensive. They're not particularly powerful either, but you know, they do the job. It comes with a sprocket already to fit 25H chain, I think this is called. So I've had to buy a length of 25H chain. It's not standard bicycle chain. I put on a tensioner, very simple spring-loaded tensioner. And if we go to the rear of the vehicle, we can see a sprocket there. You'll just see an older sprocket there that a friend of mine welded on, instead of the Shimano sprockets that were on it before. That one is smaller. I found it very high geared with that on, and it just went far too quickly. It took forever to accelerate up to speed, and when it got there it was really fast, but as soon as you got to any kind of hill it was a nightmare. It would just stop and start smoking. So I got a bigger cog, or sprocket I should say, and welded that on, and that's better, but it's still actually too high geared really. It's still very poor on the hills. It gets very hot. The motor itself I've mounted on like a base. A fabricator friend of mine's very kindly sort of welded a bit of tube and a plate onto there so I can mount the motor. Yeah, he's done quite a neat job with that. That's good. I'm glad this KMX is not built out of some fancy composite cast titanium alloy stuff. It is actually just 50mm box steel, simple as it gets, and that's good because it means you can actually work with it and weld on it and stuff. So you know, that motor is very solid. We've got the cables there and the cables from the battery going up through this sort of conduit throat here that I put on up to the control center at the front. There is a sort of project aluminium box there which houses the regulator. So it's a DC motor controller in there. It's enclosed. I can't really show it to you, but they're pretty simple things. You can have them on eBay all day long for about 20 quid. It's a 100 amp one in here. Now the motor won't take 100 amps. The motor will take, it's rated to about 30 I think. But I actually bought one of those motor controllers a while ago, a 50 amp one, and I actually burnt it out very easily. So this is a bit of a larger version. So I wanted to go oversize, and you'll see on here 3 gauges. There's the all-important battery gauge, tells you how the batteries are doing. It's not particularly accurate, I don't think, because I've literally just fully charged it, and they're brand new batteries. It doesn't say full, but there we go. Over here we've got an ammeter. It'll tell you live how many amps you're pushing into the motor, and that's important to hopefully avoid overheating it. So the motor's rated to about 30-35 amps. So if you see that gauge going up much higher than that, you're going to have to back off on the throttle. Over here we have a speedometer. It's a GPS based one. See there's 0.0 miles an hour because obviously I'm not going anywhere. And on top of the box you'll see a little GPS receiver there. That's the antenna for it. And it works the same as the like sat navs you get in cars. It gets a coordinate several times a second and work out your speed from that. That's very simple. Over here and here are the controls to drive it. That's the on-off switch. That turns the controller on and off. And over here is the speed control. That's a variable resistor mounted into the handlebar. It's actually really easy to control that with your thumb as you're going. That's the brake there. So as you're going you can control that nice and easy. Same with this, actually just turn the system on and off. Alright, we've got these sort of pegs coming out here, and they're for your feet basically. The black project box I've mounted to the this sort of stem thing here, using again angle iron that I've cut to shape. So that's really quite strong. You know, I think that will take a good bit of bashing about. And at the other end of the conduit here, I just fabricated a very basic bracket, again out of angle iron, just to sort of retain that, because I didn't want loads of cables on display here. I mean, I can't really do much about it here because you've got very limited clearance under the seat, but that's fine. It's neat enough. There's a hole there that used to be for the chain, but that's not there anymore, so you know, I've reused that, and it's all quite sturdy, quite reliable, I would have thought. But it's definitely time to give it a go. I'm particularly keen to try the speedo and the ammeter. So yeah, see how we get on. I just wanted to show you this. I do have a lithium-ion battery. This is a 22.2 volt nominal battery. I think it's out of a big drone or something. Don't know really. I got it on eBay ages ago for another project, but I never actually used it. So I've got that. It's about the size of, I don't know, a bag of sugar. And on the end I've put an Anderson connector, so I can use a lithium-ion battery if I want to. And there is actually like a net on the back, like a pouch. It fits in there all right. So what I can do is have that on the vehicle, and if I run out of power from the main batteries, and I've no idea what sort of range I'm going to get anyway, then at least I can just get a bit of extra mileage out of the lithium-ion battery, maybe to get me home, because there's no pedal, so if you run out of electricity you're walking. Alright, just putting the flag on. There we go. Hopefully this means I'm less likely to get run over. Sit down, there we go. Put feet on the bars and we're off. Nothing coming, good. And we're away. Probably doesn't look like it, but this is a little bit uphill. There is a gradient here, so it's a little slow to get going. And if you can see it on the speedo, they're doing about 15 miles an hour, thereabouts. That's as fast as it'll go. Up this hill from a standing start, and it's levelling off now. Picking up a bit of speed, yeah, it's speeding up now. What are we on now? About 19 miles an hour. Thereabouts. Hi there. That's a nice jag. Light jags. Okay, exceeding 20 miles an hour, 21. It's all good. Got a nice long stretch here. It's slightly downhill too, so get a bit of speed up. 21 miles an hour, 22, 23, 24, 25, 25.8. Feels like that's kind of its top speed. Hi there. 23. Don't mind me coming through. About 20 miles an hour on this long straight. Sun casting a shadow on my flag there. Looks like I'm off to conquer something. I think the flag does look a bit ridiculous, but you know, at the end of the day, if it stops me getting run over, then it's a good thing. Got some good speed up. How about heading down here? It's lovely and quiet. It's very smooth. Don't want
want to go too fast along here in case the car comes the other way. It's only single track. Gotta say, this really is like the easiest vehicle to drive. You just sit back and that's pretty much it. You just steer, it's just ridiculously easy. About 23 miles an hour now, something like that. Seems to be about its top speed, more or less. It's very relaxing, just sitting back and watching the wall go past. Over the bridge, there's a hill here. And that's working the motor hard. Struggling with that. And into the cafe. Let's go this way. Oh, hello. Coming through, don't mind me. You have to go slow here, don't want to run anyone over. Let's go this way. Find that pothole. Okay, coast is clear. And back onto the highway. What a lovely day. This would be a very different experience if it was pouring with rain. On a day like today, this is lovely. It's a bit cold though, being October. It's a very relaxing experience. Very green way to travel.
Well, I'm back now from my little jaunt. Just been bizzing up and down the local country lanes as you saw. It went well, you know, the Recumbent was quite nice to ride. It was comfortable. It didn't feel rickety or insecure. It felt confident on the road, and with a big flag on the back it felt like, you know, I was quite visible. So I didn't feel particularly scared or anything like that of being sort of invisible to cars. I thought that might be a problem on the road because you're really quite low down, but it felt fine. It was quite quick. I thought it was on the flats. It was under its own propulsion, only topping out maybe 22, 23 miles an hour. When it was going downhill, it went up to about 25, maybe a little bit higher. Quicker than it's allowed to go, really. In this country you're allowed like an electric powered sort of cycle type thing with 2 or 3 wheels, but it's not allowed to go above 15.5 miles an hour, I think it is. So it is too fast, really. So it could do with gearing down a little bit. Although, to be honest, everyone I know with an electric bike, you know, they're all faster than that. But even so,
I think the limit's 15.5 miles an hour, so it's technically it's too fast. It was drawing too much current, definitely. That was a big problem. Or it would be a problem if I did more driving with it. It's rated to about 35-36 amps, that motor, I think, if I remember correctly. Now when that recumbent was on the flat and not accelerating, just cruising along, it was under that. I think it was about 25-30 amps, that sort of money, and that's fine, that's well within the motor's capabilities. But accelerating or going up a hill, the amp count went much higher. At one point I saw it as high as 100 amps, so that's tripled the motor's rated maximum draw, so the motor would be getting very hot at that point. It would have been quite brutal on it. In fact, when I stopped, I could kind of smell that, you know, it was smelling a bit hot. It was still okay to the touch, but you know, it was it overworked, and a lot of that is due to the fact that I'm just quite a big, heavy guy. You know, I'm more than 100 kilograms, and the vehicle itself, I'd put it at about 50 kilogram weight, probably, maybe a bit less. So that's quite a lot of rolling weight, you know. That's that little motor to move 150 kilogram odd of weight up a hill. You know, at any speed at all is a big ask, really. That's probably why I was getting quite hot. So, you know, I think that recumbent in that setup is probably not really appropriate for me. Might be, you know, a bit more fun for my kids, perhaps. Or it'd be fine for, I think, a small adult, or it would even be alright for me if it was on a track that was, you know, quite long and flat. You know, it'd be fine if you're just cruising along mile after mile. It'd be no problem at all. But hilly around here, it did not like the hills at all. Not with me on it. So the thing I should do really is gear it down a bit, which would give it a top speed of more about what it's supposed to be, and the gearing would be better for me. It would not get so hot because there'd be less load on it. So that's something I'll look at for a future upgrade. But yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and do feel free to ask me any questions about what I put together, and send me any links to any similar things that perhaps you've made or are interested in. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and see you again soon. Bye.